We are making our stories public.
We're making our stories public.
To let you know.
To let you know that you're not alone.
That you're not alone.
We're not alone.
To give you a voice through the darkness.
One voice.
We are the voices of UL. I think that with every mental illness there comes a time when you have to stop pretending. You have to realise you're not okay, you're not in control, and you're not living. You're existing, and just barely.
In my bedroom, I have a crack in the wall above my curtain support. It's been there for about 4 years now. When I was 15 years old, I tried to hang myself from the support using a leather belt, the same leather belt that I would use for the following 2 years to hold up my uniform pants from falling down.
I mean, the best way I can describe this is to imagine a bubble. Okay, bubbles are fragile, they float. Now imagine somebody coming along with just the slightest little pin and they're gonna pop that bubble. That's the best way to describe what it feels like to just be so enclosed and consumed by your own thoughts. It's how it feels to be constantly overthinking to the point that you're fearing the worst all the time. The worst is what you're convinced is the only outcome in any situation. But what is the worst? For me, that time came after losing 3 years of my life to an eating disorder. My mother sat me down and she said, "You either stop fighting everyone around you and start fighting this, or you're going to have to defer your final year and go to an inpatient unit." For me, that day, something finally pierced through that haze in my brain that I had brought on from self-starvation and my own delusioned ideals. I was done. I was done with making my parents cry because I don't know how it feels to watch your 21-year-old daughter starve herself to death before your eyes. I was done with rumours in my hometown that I had some sort of terminal illness. I was done with not having the energy to play with my little brother or have a conversation with my sister because I couldn't concentrate on anything except this chaotic merry-go-round of numbers in my head. I was a cold, tired, anxious mess. My grades were terrible because I spent most of third year locked inside my own head, shivering in bed with my electric blanket, thinking of all the foods I could eat if calories weren't a concept.
For me, for a long time, the worst was just not having a plan. If I didn't have an A, a B, a C, that's when my anxiety would take over. Without a plan, I would become nothing more than just that anxious bubble. It'd just be vacant eyes, a trembling body, all while my whole family were sitting around me. But nobody sees this struggle, nobody sees this because with a mental illness, nothing's physically there. If you have a broken arm, somebody's going to carry a bag for you. If you have a broken leg, somebody's going to open that door. But if you're consumed with just your anxiety, nobody can see that. So clearly nothing's wrong with you. You're fine.
Right now, I can't even remember why I wanted to end my life. But I think it's an accurate description of how people with mental health feel on a daily basis. The scary bit isn't that you can't see a future for yourself, it's that you don't know why. It's terrifying now to think that I would have left behind a family. A mother, a father, a brother, a sister, cousins, aunties and uncles, my grandparents. What's even more shocking is that I would have never met some of my best friends.
At this stage, I'd gone through 2 half recovery attempts and 2 relapses, the second one which left me pretty sick. I was diagnosed with osteopenia, which is a brittle bone disease. My blood work, hormones were all over the place. My heart was under a lot of strain. I was not in a good place. But up until that moment, it all seemed worth it as long as the numbers on the scale kept going down. But I suddenly saw that those numbers were never, ever going to be low enough to satisfy my eating disorder. And I had to get out while I still could, before it gripped its claws in me any deeper.
It's only when you realise that you're not fine that things begin to turn. It was about 2 years ago now when I knew that not being able to leave my house without a plan was a problem.
Recovery is hard, and it's a long, long process involving medical care, therapy, and just talking to people about how you're feeling. It's hard to retrain your brain into eating foods that you've spent years being terrified of. Not being this fragile little bird to be protected at all costs is a really scary feeling. I spent years being my eating disorder, and I couldn't remember who I was without it. But in recovery, I've learned who I am again. I'm someone who loves to read and write and act, and I care so much about the people around me that I'd do anything to make them happy. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a girlfriend, I'm not a statistic, and I'm not an eating disorder.
So in March in 2017, I spoke to my parents and I just said, I'm not okay.
I remember dangling from the curtain sport, my feet on top of the radiator. All it took was a step off. Then I'd only have minutes. I was frightened in that moment, somehow aware of what I was doing, but completely numb to it. I stepped off the radiator and felt my weight force down the support until it was bent downwards, cracking the paint above it in the wall. The numbness went away almost immediately, and I was fortunate enough to feel the instant regret that most suicide survivors do feel. I immediately found my footing again, just as I was starting to lose my sight.
But I'm still that bubble. It doesn't consume me as much, but my anxiety is still pretty much alive inside me. Now, it's been a long road to try get some bit of a recovery, but it's because I'm determined to get there that I keep pushing myself. But life doesn't work that way. Life keeps knocking you back. But coming here to UL was the first time that I saw any bit of light, that I had proper friends, that I could trust people who are there to pull me up when I start looking at that water. When you look and you see the current and you wonder how fast can that take you and how far will you go? Will you go under? Will you go far? Will you just hit a rock? And that's it over. Because with anxiety, the pain is intangible. Your heart beats so fast, your stomach twists like there's a knife in there and you can't stop that. You want to feel the pain, but in a way that you can see it. So you can see the scars that are going to be on your arm, and you can think, yeah, that's okay, I can feel that pain, I can see it, I know it's there, I know why it's happening. But how do you explain the pain that's in here? You can't. And going to counsellors and talking about your problems, my God, it helps. Because it's all in here and you get it out there.
I realised as I untied the belt and got down from the radiator that I'd lost sight a long time ago. Lost sight of the people who made life worth living. And since then, I've met the love of my life a couple of times. I've become a more established writer than I could ever have dreamed. And I've changed into a person who realizes that not everything in life has to be perfect. The crack in my wall is still there, and the curtain support is still slightly bent. I used to look at them with shame, But now they're not reminders of how I wanted to die. They're reminders of how I chose to live.
Recovery is something I have to actively choose every day. And some days, recovery feels like hell. I go to bed hating myself, hating the way I look, hating that I can't count my ribs anymore, and hating that my cheeks aren't hollow. So I go to bed and I plan to relapse, worse than ever before, so I can be that safe little ghost girl again. And then I wake up and I get dressed and I eat my breakfast and I choose to fight those voices in my head. Because I've learned to accept that they're always going to be there, but the difference is they're not in control anymore. I am.
There's the saying, suffering builds character, and it's harsh, but it's true. You know, don't be ashamed of what you've been through. Don't let it control or, you know, dictate who you are, but don't feel shame about it. You know, I don't feel ashamed.
And if I could give anyone advice who's watching this, is get help. Don't end up like me. Don't end up to the point where you are so full of loathing and recrimination towards things that aren't your fault, that you end up to the point where you don't even want to see anybody. Get help. Talk to someone. Talk to a counsellor. But don't do what I do and keep it all to yourself.
Confronting your own mental health is scary. Coming out and telling others about it, even more so. My parents were the ones I was most afraid of telling that I needed help. But they were more supportive than ever I could have hoped. My friends have tolerated every breakdown, every setback that I thought would lead them to abandon me. Without them, I would have never have realized that it's okay not to be okay. I have depression, but it does not define me.